Hello everyone, welcome to Gyandhara, Pupil Teacher Online Study Point, and today our topic is lesson plan, the whole concept. So, first of all, we will study about the definition of a lesson plan. As a pupil teacher, you must have preparing the lesson plans for your class teaching under the guidance of your mentors, and different people have defined lesson plans in different ways. Some people call it the blueprint of teaching. So actually the lesson plan is the blueprint of teaching, and some call it a piece of creative work, and it may be a plan of guide for action in teaching learning situation. So different peoples have different ideology about lesson plan, because a lesson plan is not a blueprint of teaching when studied. Because it one has to adhere to at all the class, so it is not a blueprint, it is rather a guide. So it is not blueprint but a guide for teaching learning process. It helps teacher to make or organize the content as per the need of the teaching learning objective. So a lesson plan is for the use of a pupil teacher. According to that, they should make clear their teaching very uh, you can say effective in short term of a time. So we can write different type of definitions of lesson plan, or a small definition is I am also giving you. According to a scholar, lesson planning gives the teacher the extra dash and makes the teaching learning process slick. It provides help in selection of proper strategies, tactics, and audio visual aids. Okay, so it is not the blueprint of teaching that one has to adhere to it all the cost. It is rather a guide and index of sequence of classroom activities which helps a teacher. Our teacher can modify or change any part of it whether it is necessary. That is why it is not the blueprint of teaching. Actually, it is a guide, a flexible guide where a teacher can add his own ideas according to the situation. Suppose I give you example by this, like if you are teaching in class, suppose parts of flowers, and suppose you were asked some question for introductory uh, suppose you are going to ask a question for introductory level, few questions, but a student make another point in between that question, so you have to elaborate that time of introduction according to the student's need. So that can be done. That is why it is not a blueprint of teaching but as a flexible guide. I hope you all are clear now. Now the next is, what are the various approaches of lesson planning? So these are the six main approaches of lesson planning. The first one is Herbartian approach. So the approach is actually called the five system approach of teaching. So this approach actually based on presenting the content in a sequence or you can say the logical sequence under which the learning circumstances are created and units are executed. So the Herbartian approach always emphasizes on teaching or training rather than the learning. So this was the first approach used in lesson planning. This focus on teaching. Now the next approach is Dewey and Kilpatrick approach. In this approach, the special emphasis is laid on the experiences. So you can say, and you must have studied in your notes also about Dewey and Kilpatrick approach. So this is the project up method. In this approach, a teacher always gives project to the students, and student learn or gain knowledge by their own experiences. So if we are using a DV or a Kilpatrick approach, they must have been given a project to the student. The third one is Morrison approach, and it is given by Henry C. Morrison in 1926, and it presented a new approach in field of lesson planning, which is called Morrison approach. This approach is basically based on Gestalt psychology. You can go and check out my video on Gestalt psychology. It is very well explained there. And the Gestalt psychology always emphasis on the maxim whole to part. So if a teacher is using the Morrison approach, so he must be telling in class first of all the you can say whole plant. Then he will initially he will tell about the whole plant, and then he will start telling about its parts or organs which analyzed later. So we have to present a whole to the student, and then after that, when the student is able to grasp the structure of the that plant, he will then learn the parts of the plants. Then fourth is American approach. Approach is always on the base of learning objectives. So if we use the object, the whole lesson plan will goes around the learning objectives. In Indian approach, which we always use in our lesson plan in Uttar Pradesh or other you can say part of the India, we use the Indian approaches, which is basically based on Herbartian approach, and we use the same you can say topic, time, general aim, specific objectives, expected behavioral, reference, class, date, section, all the format which we use in our daily lesson plans as a pupil teacher. And sixth is the British approach. With British approach or the traditions of Britain have been much influenced the educational system there, and as compared to America, the progress of work in Britain has been quite slow. So the British approach is basically, it is completely teacher oriented. They emphasize on teacher activities. All the activities should prepared by the teacher itself, and student evaluation is very important here. Now next is classifications of lesson plans. So there are mainly 5 kinds of lesson plans. Macro lesson plans. Macro means the lesson plan covering whole topic or whole lesson. It can be divided. When the macro lesson plan is divided into short topics, then it will become of like about 30 to 40 minutes, which the pupil teacher prepare for their teaching. It becomes the short lesson plan. Then you must have done the micro teaching. So micro lesson plan, there are 5 to 10 minutes, and they are different. In micro lesson plan, there are only the concept in order to accomplish a specific skill. So these lesson plans are skill based. Now the next is unwritten lesson plan. Suppose before entering the classroom, sometimes the teachers must have a lesson plan in their mind on the basis of their experiences, and this what he will teach, what he will teach, how he will teach. So this type of mental lesson plan is called the unwritten lesson plan, which we see in the higher education, where our professors come and teach without having any lesson plans. And lesson plans in written form, in training colleges, the lesson plans the use in training colleges are the written lesson plans which are used by people teacher. in order to for the supervisor of the exam, for the supervisor for examines and compares his class teaching and giving the suggestions for the improvement. Now next, the characteristic of a good lesson plan. Matlab, what are the characteristic of a good lesson plan? So lesson plan must be based on the previous knowledge of the student. It should be according to level of the students. It must have motivational techniques. It should include the necessary materials which are required for the lesson plans. It must be have a proportionate time for every activity. It must include the evaluation and feedback process, and it must be flexible. The most important thing is it must be flexible. So a teacher can use, or you can say elaborate, or you can say uh, must complete all the points of teaching learning objectives. Now the next is advantages and limitations of lesson plan. So everything has its merits and own demerits. So first of all, we'll see what are the advantages of lesson plan. I am going to write only 5 for you, and you can add more to your notes when you will make your notes. So advantages, first of all, help teacher to be organized. Once we have a lesson plan of any topic, we feel so organized that we have to just focus on our guidelines of lesson plan. Second, it always uh, assists the teacher to evaluate his teaching. There is a process of feedback also in the lesson plan, so a teacher can always evaluate his own teaching. Next, it motivates a teacher to keep individual differences in the class. So to keep individual differences in mind for teaching, because we always prepare the lesson plans according to need level and ability of the students. Next, it motivates it motivates teacher to use different strategies and tactics. So you can say a teacher can experiment with the lesson plans. And fifth one is, according to me, it assists a teacher for, you can say a teacher feels more confident. It makes I'm writing here, it it makes teacher more confident about his teaching. So these are the advantages of lesson plans. Now the limitations. Obviously there are limitations. First, especially in training colleges where the people teachers are new and they don't have the experience of teaching, sometimes the lesson plans bounds the teachers, pupil teacher, you can say, because everything is written and one must have to adhere with the lesson plan. So when the new situation arrive, the people teacher don't know how to react, or how to react in that situation, and always the people teacher find himself helpless under the new situation. Second, it hinders the creativity of student, because when a teacher is teaching according to the lesson plan, sometimes the students creativity, teachers never appreciate that on that particular topic discussion. Third is lesson plan of complex topics is difficult to prepare, like physics or practical subjects. Sometimes lesson planning is quite different for difficult topics, and it consumes more than necessity. Suppose we have to explain only the part of class, somebody will for creating 30-40 minutes lesson plan, he will add up more knowledge to the lesson plan. So sometimes it consumes more than the necessity. So I hope you are clear with the concept of the lesson plan, and please write down your notes and ask me anything in the comment section. Thanks for watching Yandhara. Please like, share and subscribe.